So, while I originally wanted to talk about the bad guys of the campaign, I decided it'd make more sense to talk about the history of the setting. So grab your notebooks and pencils and I'll explain why this continent is the center of events which may destroy the entire universe as we know it. Thousands of years ago, dragons ruled the land, and they were terrifying. They ate what they wanted, took what they wanted. As predators, the world was their prey. Due to the power and ferocity of dragons, many non-draconian races were forced to stay in caves and underground, for fear of being eaten or killed. But many were unable to adapt. On the continent, some of the races were beginning to die out. This was when a powerful observer felt pity, and decided to act. Lunaris, the goddess of magic, came down to Aria. While she did not fight the dragons, she wanted to help those hurt by the tyranny of dragons. She decided to teach immortal magic, giving her some of her power in the process. But unfortunately, gods are not all-knowing. She couldn't even imagine what her actions would lead to. The first name of the woman she gave magic has been lost to time, but her last name is now known across the world: Darish. A few months after gaining her new abilities, Darish used her powerful magic to attempt to genocide the dragon race. There were once hundreds of thousands of dragons. By the time she was done, there was less than 100. After this, she disappeared, only leaving behind magical teachings for those able to learn them. While some people were gifted in magic, none were as powerful as her children. It didn't take long for them to establish a monarchy on the continent, with the Darish ruling as kings or queens. Acknowledging that it was because of Lunaris that the Darish were able to rise, they named their kingdom Lunaria. They also established a religion around worshipping her, and the moon became the country's symbol. The power of a Darish king or queen was absolute, but many looked to them as leaders both in politics and in religion. By this point, it had been a couple thousand years since the genocide of the dragons. Non-draconian races were now dominant on the continent and were thriving. But remember what I said about D&D? Things seemed happy, but that was only on the surface. The first Darish did save many races, but she left behind a legacy of brutality and elitism. Not everyone has the ability to learn magic, but those unable to learn magic were considered scum, the bottom of society. They were often relegated to menial tasks, but many found themselves in the mines of eastern Lunaria. One of these miners was named Broxton Barossa. By all accounts, he was a normal guy just trying to do his best to provide for his family. But things were desperate, both for him and other non-magic users in the mines. Conditions were terrible, and few cared about whether they lived or died. Certainly not the Darish. But with no magic, how could he fight to change things? When Lunaris had given her magic to Darish, she revealed she wasn't the only god out in the universe. There was another that she mentioned, one who was her husband, and supposedly far stronger than her: Solaris, the sun. According to Broxton, Solaris had blessed him with the knowledge to copy some effects of magic utilizing tools and ingredients. Historians believe, however, that rather he discovered fire after hitting flint with a steel pickaxe. Most of these historians are Lunarian, so you reach your own conclusion. But yes, after refining this magic copying ability, Broxton named it science, after his daughter who proved to be proficient in the art. After spending decades secretly teaching science to people sick of the Darish tyranny, he had an army of people ready to fight the Lunarians who stood in their way. And fight they did. The guards at the mines found themselves overwhelmed by the miners, taking the mine in just a few hours. Utilizing an early precursor to guns, they made quick work of the mages that underestimated them. Through the power of their technology, it did not take Broxton's army long to push against the Lunarians, who had not ever been in a battle like this before. It took a long bloody campaign with losses on both sides, but eventually the Broxton army managed to take half the continent. By now, it was decided that Broxton be named as the undisputed leader of their hard-earned land. And as if to rub it into the Lunarians, Broxton named his country Solaria, to thank Solaris for sparking Broxton's rebellion. So, this is where things take a turn for the odd. One would expect the Solarians to keep up the offense, but they stopped. In fact, the war took a turn and became a Cold War. The Lunarians were reeling from this huge loss, but they were building strength. Broxton knew this and built his strength as well, remaining on the defense. And so they waited, for many, many years. Several generations later, well, in the last video you saw what happened. So yeah, that's the key aspect of the history of the continent of Aria. Though, Aria is not the only location in the campaign that's of importance, it is the main one. I think next time I'll talk about one of the bad guys. Thank you for watching, see you later.